So you've won 3 Oscars, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
You know, to see you in person like that without all the makeup, I hardly didn't know you. Well,
5 decades after his death, Walter Brennan, who was the first and only actor to win the Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor 3 times, is still remembered. However, he is not so much remembered for his acting feats as he is for his controversial views. This is the story of how the beloved actor became known as the most evil man in Hollywood. Early life. On July 25, 1984, 2 Irish immigrants gave birth to a son only a few steps away from their home in Swampscott, Massachusetts. This baby would later go on to be known as America's grandpa. But then he was just Walter, their little boy. Mr. Brennan, his father, worked as an engineer and inventor, and so, when young Brennan grew older, he studied engineering at Ringe Technical High School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But he didn't use his degree much. He worked as a bank clerk until he enlisted in the U.S. Army and served as a private in the 101st Field Artillery Regiment in France during World War I, where he spent 2 years. During these years, Brennan was exposed to mustard gas, and his vocal cords were damaged. But it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because it gave him the distinctively high-pitched voice he was known for in the movie industry.
from your fellow actors, not just once, but 3 times. This is your life, Walter Brennan.
Till today, actors and fans love to impersonate that voice. When the war was over, he worked as a financial reporter for a Boston newspaper. By the 1920s, he'd gotten into real estate and made a truckload of money, only to lose most of it in a market downturn. Could this have been the origin of his villain side? Rise to fame. After the big loss, Brennan became so poor he couldn't afford to pay attention. He decided to channel his sales skills into acting, and in 1925, he started working as a film extra at Universal Studios, earning $7.50 a day. He did this for a decade, appearing in movies such as Lorraine of the Lions, The Calgary Stampede, and The Michigan Kid. Altogether, he was in about 30 movies before landing a major role in the 1930 movie King of Jazz. You could say that Brennan was one lucky man. In 1932, he was acting a fight scene when another actor kicked him in the face, and he lost some of his teeth. This accident aided his career because it gave him a distinctive look, and when he had a new role, he'd ask the director with or without, referring to whether he should remove his teeth for the role or not.
Fella come out from Mobile last week to sell me some stuff.
Brennan's big break came with his role as a cabbie in Sam Goldwyn's 1935 The Wedding Night. His impressive performance led Goldwyn to sign him to a long-term contract, resulting in a larger role in Barbary Coast, his first of 7 films with director Howard Hawks. Record-breaking supporting actor. After years of paying his dues, Brennan stepped into his award-winning era. His breakthrough role came as the Swedish lumberman Swan Bostrom in the 1936 classic Come and Get It. This role pioneered his award-winning streak, as it got him his first Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. 2 years later, his role as a grandfatherly horse farm owner in Kentucky got him another Oscar as Best Supporting Actor. And in 1940, he played Judge Roy Bean opposite Gary Cooper, and that earned him his 3rd Best Supporting Actor Oscar, making him the first actor to win 3 Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor. By the mid-1940s, Brennan had already established himself as a Hollywood household name. He appeared in Sergeant York in 1941, earning a 4th Oscar nomination, and played a sea captain in This Woman Is Mine in the same year. From there, his career only got better and better.
Well, what you figure is your business. This road west is our business. And you're a block in it.
Becoming a real-life villain. At the peak of his popularity, Brennan's name was on everyone's lips, not only for his acting, but also for his blunt and harsh opinions. King of Hollywood racists. Brennan was a racist, and he was very outspoken about it. Over the years, his co-workers have admitted that he was a bigot. One thing they remember him saying was that whites were smarter than others.
Are you well known as a singer? No. 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
He also used racial slurs against African Americans and Jews. Brennan strongly opposed communism and referred to anyone who supported John F. Kennedy or didn't vote for Richard Nixon as a communist. In the 1964 United States presidential election, he supported Barry Goldwater because the politician voted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. On April 4, 1968, Walter Brennan was working on the set of The Guns of Will Sonnet when he heard of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Convinced that there was a connection between the civil rights movement and communism, Brennan allegedly celebrated this news. He was also glad when Robert F. Kennedy was killed. Crew members claimed he danced with joy upon hearing about Martin Luther King Jr. Andy Brennan. His son confirmed this reaction, saying that while he didn't dance, Brennan was pleased about King's death because he believed he was a communist, spreading the gospel of hatred. While Brennan's reaction to King's assassination is one of the most notorious stories about him, there's a lot more he did to earn him the title of the most evil man in Hollywood. Hating on African Americans and communists was not enough for him. He wanted to spread it to everyone around him and the world at large. During the 1960s, Brennan publicly stated that he believed the anti-war and civil rights movements were influenced by communists abroad. He told reporters that the civil rights protests, particularly in Watts, Newark, Alabama, and Birmingham, were caused by anti-American troublemakers, stirring up African Americans who were otherwise content, and also said that the Watts riots could have been ended with a machine gun. Brennan used his country grandpa image, which is a stark contrast to his real, educated self, to push his racist views, particularly through his association with the John Birch Society. He even made an album at a John Birch convention in 1965, speaking in the character of Grandpa Amos about the supposed communist threat posed by civil rights activists. His ability to mask his racism behind his beloved fictional character made his influence more dangerous because many fans fell for the grandpa guys.
But we were a bunch of guys just coming home, just waiting to see good old Boston Harbor again.
This is like a dream.
Brennan's fear of the unknown. To top off everything that has been said about the record-breaking actor, Brennan was overly suspicious about a lot of things, and this caused him to be one paranoid grandpa. First, he believed that the Soviets would invade the US to destroy democracy and implement communism. So, he built a bunker in his LA home and stocked it with firearms, food rations, and survival supplies, prepared for their arrival. Sadly, there never came a time for him to make use of it. In addition, Brennan suspected that John Wayne and a number of other celebrities were secret communists. Yes, he was that obsessed with communism. He also forbade his grandchildren from listening to the Beatles because he was afraid the band would corrupt them with modern ideas he didn't agree with. As we said earlier, he judged people based on their political preferences and would criticize any of his co-workers who supported Democratic or Kennedy-like candidates. As a Roman Catholic, he was worried about what he saw as a decline in religious and patriotic values in the country. For instance, he attended the Project Prayer Rally in 1964 to support mandatory school prayers, after the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional in 1962 and 1963. But his efforts to change the law didn't heed much. The final years. At some point in his career, Brennan ventured into music and recorded several tracks. One of the most popular was Old Rivers, a song depicting the life of an elderly farmer and his mule. It reached number 5 on the US Billboard chart, making the then 67-year-old Brennan the oldest living person to achieve a top 40 hit at the time.
Because tonight, Walter Brennan, of the truly great character actors of our time, this is your life.
In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Brennan joined the cast of the CBS sitcom To Rome with Love. It was his final regular role on television. He began filming Herbie Rides Again in 1973 for Disney, but had to withdraw and was replaced because he fell sick. His final on-screen appearance was 2 years later in the Western film Smoke in the Wind, directed by Joseph Kane. Throughout his 50-year career, Walter Brennan played over 230 movie roles. In recognition of his versatility and dedication to the industry, he was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and was inducted into the Hall of Great Western Performers at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. Brennan lived his final years at his ranch in Moore Park, Ventura County, California. He died from emphysema on September 21, 1974, at the age of 80 in Oxnard, and was laid to rest at San Fernando Mission Cemetery in LA. Today, not a lot of people recognize Walter Brennan as the guy who won the Best Supporting Actor thrice. Rather, he is infamous for his racist remarks and anti-civil rights agenda. With all of the ideologies he was pushing at the time, it's a wonder if he'd have survived in the America of today.